Hello again, and we are in Hebrews 2 today. I am enjoying my Mary Tea for this week, our Women of the Bible tea collection. So if you haven't taken a look, this is the beginning of it this week, and it is absolutely delicious tea. So enjoy, and let's dive in after I take the sip. To Hebrews chapter 2, verse 1. We must pay more careful attention, therefore, to what we have heard, so that we do not drift away. Now, this particular word, drift away, is a slipping like a ring of a finger, how your wedding band slips off your hand, or as when you're taking in food and food goes in, but it goes in down the wrong pipe, and it kind of, or as we say, it goes down the wrong pipe, and it feels funny. It's not right. It's not the right place, and it causes us to cough. Same kind of thing with the slipping away, going to a different route. Also, the more accurate would be the pushing of a ship, like the wind, as they're trying to come into dock, but the wind pushes it so much that it misses its target, its landing, and it goes further down and goes to a different port or landing. And that's what that picture is. He says, don't drift away. You'll miss your landing. You'll miss your target if you don't pay attention and you don't be careful in your understanding and listen to what you have heard. So in verse 2, for if the message spoken by angels was binding, and every violation and disobedience received its just punishment, how shall we escape if we ignore such a great salvation? So if punishment followed rejection of the law in the Old Testament, how much more so if we reject the salvation that is handed to us as a gift by God himself? If he says, I have given you this gift of salvation, all you have to do is receive it, and yet we miss it, then that punishment is far greater than the punishment of having not obeyed the law in the Old Testament. In continuing on, this salvation, which was first announced by the Lord, was confirmed to us by those who heard him. So they are witnesses of it. They've received testimony from the other disciples. God also testified to it by signs, wonders, and various miracles, and gifts of the Holy Spirit distributed according to his will. So, of course, many of these may have even been in the upper room. We're not sure, or have had some sort of connection there. But they've seen the signs and wonders. They've had the infilling of the Holy Spirit. They've seen God at work in their lives. So they know it to be true. It's been a testimony of this salvation of Christ and his Holy Spirit that came. In verse 5, it is not to angels that he has subjected the world to come. He didn't give the authority to the angels, about which we are speaking, but there is a place where someone has testified. What is man that you are mindful of him? We just read this yesterday. The Son of Man that you care for him, in, again, Psalms. You made him a little lower than the angels. You crowned him with glory and honor and put everything under his feet. In putting everything under him, God left nothing that is not subject to him. So all of the earth is subject to him. Yet at present, we do not see everything subject to him. We don't see everything that is subject to man. We don't fully understand. But we do see Jesus, as he says, who was made a little lower than the angels, now crowned with glory and honor because he suffered death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. Okay, so if man was made to be a little lower than the angels before Christ came, then Christ, when he was born, he was also born a human, which means he was placed a little lower than the angels at that point. But he went through death and the resurrection so that he again would taste death for everyone, as he says. And that through that there would be glory and honor and a bringing us as brothers into his family, into a way that we could connect and be a part of God's family that we couldn't be before, which also then takes us into an elevated position, being a part of his family. And we'll see this as we read on. In bringing many sons to glory, it was fitting that God, for whom and through whom everything exists, should make the author of our salvation, author being the originator, the pioneer, the founder of this new covenant. And it's bringing it to completion. And what he says is should make the author of their salvation perfect, or bring to completion, through suffering. Both the one who makes men holy and those who are made holy are of the same family. So if Jesus makes men holy, and he is holy, then he makes them into his family. So Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers. He says, I will declare your name to my brothers. He's referencing Psalm 22 again. or to another Psalms, and this is Psalm 22. I will declare your name to my brothers. In the presence of the congregation, I will sing your praises. And again, I will put my trust in him. And again, he says, here am I, and the children God has given me. Since the children have flesh and blood, and Jesus also had flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, so that by his death he might destroy him who holds the power of death, of course, speaking of the enemy, that is the devil, and free those who all their lives were held in slavery by their fear of death. So we no longer have a fear of death. We're no longer enslaved to death because of the sacrifice that Jesus made. But more than that, he entered into death to bring us into life, to resurrect us to that life. There is no power of death over us anymore. For surely it is not angels he helps, but Abraham's descendants. So any of us who become Christians, we become engrafted in to the blessing and favor and covenant of Abraham's descendants. For this reason, he had to be made like his brothers in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service to God. Of course, being like his brothers, meaning us as humans. And that he might make atonement for the sins of the people, because he had to become like us. The sheep and the goats couldn't become like us. They could never be a perfect sacrifice, but God himself could be that perfect sacrifice. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. So he went through things that are known to man, the temptations and the sufferings. He went through those things so that he could be able to relate and empathize and understand and help us to walk through it and to have life, to be able to conquer these things, and to also to place us in a position of authority as we will continue to learn throughout this book. So we'll conclude here today.